save this for the YouTube audience because this is the juiciest story of the day, despite the fact that it is Guardians opening day. Yesterday, the Browns and Myles Garrett reworked their contract. Essentially, they pushed back a giant portion of his bonus, which was due to be paid to him yesterday, now till the week before the start of the regular season. And everyone started to speculate, what could this mean? Why do this? And then Zach Jackson quote tweeted a tweet from Jason from Over the Cap, not this Jason, but Jason from Over the Cap, who's maybe the best cap guy. You want to take tag board here full, it's already up full. Jason OTC said, this is a very odd move for a contract with a no trade provision. There is zero cap benefit to the Browns, and Garrett, I'm assuming, is now deferring $10 million that was going to be paid now to the fall. I guess maybe a bigger payment in the fall when they pick it up. Zach Jackson then said, I still don't see the Browns trading Myles Garrett anytime soon, but as Jason OTC says here, this gives the team maximum flexibility to do so if it ever made sense, and Garrett agreed to it. Long-term flexibility for the team here, not much short-term cap gain. Earl,
hang on. Before can you put the Jason one up
one
more time? There's an important line in there I wanted to see. Going to be paid now to the fall. I guess maybe a bigger payment in the fall when they pick it up. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now go.
Earl was very mad that people started speculating this could mean an open door has been kicked to a Myles Garrett trade discussion. So, Earl, I want to let you start on this one. You're not having it.
So, I was irritated. I'm not irritated at the fans. Fans are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to speculate. They're going to come up with all kind of stuff. My irritation personally, and this is just me, it comes from some of our colleagues. And I feel like that sometimes they purposely trigger other people's emotions for absolutely no reason. All three of us sitting here on this panel know that there is a very, very low chance that Jimmy Haslam or Andrew Berry is considering trading Myles Garrett.
Hang on. We think there's a low chance that they're considering it?
Yeah. So at least I feel that way. I don't know if you feel that way. I don't think Jason feels that way. I feel that way, okay? So the fact that I feel that way, and I feel like most of us know exactly why Andrew Berry did what he did with Myles Garrett, like he's done with everybody, it seems like. You know, take the base, convert it to a roster bonus, kick the can, make the base salary lower down the road. This has always been his course of action, and it just frustrated me to see that everybody is leading with this narrative of, well, this means that the Browns is possibly entertaining trade Myles Garrett, or Myles Garrett is asking to be traded. So before we came on, I just want to read this. This was from Mary Kay Cabot this morning. The Browns and Myles Garrett have agreed to a contract modification that gave them cap flexibility, but they have no plans to trade him, a league source tells Cleveland.com. The modifications confirmed by Cleveland.com results in more team-friendly structure of the contract, which will make him easier to trade. But the Browns have no plans to do so far. In fact, if they had wanted to trade him, which they don't, they wouldn't have needed to tweak the contract. And so to me, it's letting you know that Andrew Berry is just following the same course of action of trying to create some type of cap flexibility for whatever reason that he has. We know that. Most of us know that. And it gets a little irritating when the narrative is always trade this guy away, trade that guy away. And I always go back to that clip of me hearing TJ Ward talk about dealing with Cleveland media can be tough sometimes because they always want the next guy. In the first hour of the show, we opened up the show, kind of told you my backstory, my journey. Sometimes I even get frustrated with that because it's like, why is it always the next guy? Why is it always this outside guy? Here it is. You got arguably the second best Cleveland Browns player ever behind Jim Brown, future Hall of Famer on your team. And people want to entertain this idea of trading him for some damn draft picks that you can't even guarantee you're going to hit on. It triggers me, man, because we know that's, in my opinion, a low reality.
Well, the why is because they're not winning. So why is that always the discussion? Because they're not winning. Because it is always about the future and the uncertain future. Now, I don't think they're trading Myles Garrett anytime soon. This is not a standard modification. This did not create a bunch of cap space that the Browns can use.
That's the one point I want to make clear is this is not the, okay, this is what is due. We're going to turn this into a signing bonus. Here's all your money up front, and we're going to spread the hit out over the next 4 years. Yeah. That's what they do every time. That's not what this was.
That allows them to do that down the road, but this gives them the flexibility to do so if they want to. Now, I don't think that they want to for a lot of the reasons that you outlined, and I don't think that they intend to anytime really soon. This just gives them the opportunity, and we are headed to a year for the Browns where we're all guessing on the outside and to a level on the inside of what really the expectations are. Right? No one expects this team to win the Super Bowl or even make the playoffs. But is this a full march for Arch, or are we expecting strides? Because the message that's been given is they're expecting strides. They expect better player development. They expect the defense to not be completely wasted. They expect to be a more competitive team in a division that seems wide open. Right? But this specific move is mostly for the future, but it does at least open the possibility that if a trade is made, if something changed, and that would be a big change, that a trade could be made and it would be more accommodating to the Browns. I want to say this too. The cap is what it is, and some people know a lot about it and some people know a little about it. In either case, wherever you stand on that, when the Browns did this deal with Myles Garrett just 15 months ago, 14 months ago, they gave him 20-some million up front. So it doesn't seem like real money. That's real money. They did not do that intending to trade him 15 months later. Because regardless of your cap implications or who's paying what 9 months from now or 4 years from now, that money is already paid and is not coming back in anybody's pocket.
So there's a lot there to unpack. Nobody wants to trade Myles Garrett. I don't think anybody is like, man, this is great. We're going to get all these picks that they're probably going to screw up. Like, I don't think anybody. I wrote the column last year, like right around now, they should have traded him, and I still maintain they should have traded him. It would have been hard with the cap and everything else. They would have had to wait till the new league year begins, whatever. But it's not because I don't think Myles Garrett is a good player. It's because this team isn't going anywhere, and you're driving a Ferrari, and you're living in a house that's getting
driving
foreclosed
references
on.
with Myles. You got to be careful.
Well, this is true, but yeah.
Because he is driving a Ferrari.
But
Well played.
Myles on this roster is driving a Ferrari in a house that's about to be foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys went 7-10 with Micah Parsons. They traded Micah Parsons. What did they do last year? 7-9-1. So as good as – and Myles is better than Micah. I'm not disputing that. But I think we can agree they're in the same category type of player. But when you are at that position, it just doesn't impact winning at a high level.
Look at the game against New England where Myles had 5 sacks and they lost by 20 or 19.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 8 wins the last 2 years with this guy, who is, by no question, he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He will go down as possibly the greatest to ever play his position. Certainly he's in the discussion regardless. But they've got 8 wins. And they spent $1 billion in payroll over 4 years with him. And 0 playoff wins from 21 on.
It's a multi-layered discussion. But if you boil it down to should they have traded him or not, it's strongly they should have.
Yeah.
But because they didn't, I don't know that they're going to right now. And if they did, let's make this clear. This makes it possible that on June 2nd they could trade him. Or on September 15th they could trade him. It makes it more possible.
Why did they do what they did then yesterday if it wasn't to trade him? Why did they do this?
Well, because if it does work, it gives them more flexibility down the road.
How?
They right now, Jason, they're basically at the point where they're about out of contracts that they can do what Earl said they do to all of them. They need more guys to do that. This makes it easier to do that down the road. It also gives them more outs. It's both.
See, I wasn't under the impression that Myles receives, and that's where I'm looking at this. Like, if you're Myles, why do you do this? Why does Myles?
Because it makes it easier for them to trade him if he goes there. But he has a no trade clause.
Yeah.
He has tons of influence in this organization.
Tons.
Right. And he is going to be 31 this year.
And it's always been in the back of my head, like when he went on his tour at Radio Row and he said everything that he said, when he basically burned the Browns to the ground, I didn't see one lie.
Right. Nobody argued.
It was all true. Yeah. Everything he said was true.
Right.
And just because he signed the contract doesn't mean he doesn't still feel that way.
That's right. And until the situation changes, nothing's going to feel that way. However, this is my strongest reasoning for why it's not going to happen now, in addition to that.
Yeah.
It would be a huge change. The GM didn't want to be the guy that traded for Deshaun Watson and traded away Myles Garrett.
Yes.
And now the former head coach were adamant, we're not trading Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is rare. We need him.
Yes.
We know we need to get to more winning. That doesn't become easier if we get rid of Myles Garrett. Now there's a brand new head coach in town. Right? And whether you think that he's great or not, and whether you think that he can magically fix this offense or not, you don't do this to a guy and say, oh, by the way, now your best player's gone. Thanks for signing
And
up.
didn't he mention Myles Garrett in this opening press
Well,
conference?
shouldn't he?
So,
Yes.
and should
Did he go into detail about how Myles Garrett kept him up at night when he was the offensive
Absolutely.
coordinator of the team down
And
the street?
like we talked in the first hour, and you said it. I seen my boy like kind of like triggered, and I thought we talked about it. The fan part of me, I am still a fan of this football team, and so the fan in me who wants to see the Cleveland Browns be successful, I get the whole 8 wins the last 2 years, but we are more successful with Myles Garrett as a part of this football team. I just sat there and heard Jimmy Haslam say in January that he felt like this football team should have won more games than what they did. I can only assume, even though Todd Monken is a first-time head coach, the fact that he has all these years of football experience, he was the choice at head coach because they believe they are closer to winning than not. So why would you turn around and trade your overall best player? I get the whole you're trying to create a situation to where down the road, if that's a possibility, you can do it. All I'm saying is what triggered me personally is there are people out here talking like the Browns are placing themselves in the situation that they are about to trade Myles Garrett right now, and we know that that is not true. So why even light the flame?
Because it's opening the door.
To trigger people
or
like that.
you have to admit, though, it did crack the window.
I don't think you can say it's not true. I don't think you can sit here and definitively say they are not trading Myles Garrett.
I got 90-10.
I don't disagree
still
with
10.
that either, but this move did crack the window.
Earl, if you're at 90-10, where were you at before this news yesterday?
If I'm gonna always be a little open-minded because it is business. I just don't think it's a realistic play right now based on
I don't think it's a
everything that the
realistic
Browns
play
said.
right now either, but this did set it up for the future if they get to that point.
And maybe I misinterpreted how some people put it out there, but y'all not y'all, but there's people out here speaking like this is they set themselves up now to make a play and draft David Bailey now so they can trade Myles Garrett, post Jones.
Well, right, that's still 4 weeks. It is. What's exactly 4 weeks from today?
It is.
Right? So yeah, that would be. But I still think that's highly unlikely.
If I have to put money on the table right now, I still think it's more likely than not that he is here. But I am by no means at 90-10. That I still think because Myles has a voice in this too, and yes, he's got a no trade clause. But again, I go back to everything that he said. And yes, you could say it's a negotiating tactic. What did he say that was not true? Nothing.
Right. No. People quibble about the presentation now with the facts, right? And
It was all true.
yeah, and then the facts are that this is a bad franchise in a bad place right now until multiple things change.
And put on top of that the fact that it's pretty obvious he did not have very fond views of Kevin. So Kevin's gone. He wanted Jim Schwartz. Well, now Jim Schwartz is not even in the building now. And you saw that. So I'm just saying, Myles has a role in all of this too.
No doubt.
And he already came forward once. So do I think he'll be here? Yeah, I would still put it higher than 50% that he's here. But I'm not anywhere near 90-10.
Look, it's still this team they have done cap gymnastics and created short-term space, right? And what has looked like a really bad situation at times, they have spent ahead to get out of. But the facts are they just gave Myles Garrett this outrageous guaranteed contract exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
And to trade him now, that would still result in debt. This future flexibility allows them to move things and gives them the chance there, but it doesn't create anything now. And until I see it processed pre-June 1, it's still more of a dead hit than they could afford.
And I look at it like, are you not trading him because it's in the best interest of the franchise? Or are you not trading him because you don't want to be the GM who would then be on the hook for two of the...
Let me ask you this. Can Andrew Berry even trade Myles Garrett without Jimmy Haslam saying yes or no?
No. Right. Andrew Berry can make a move at kick returner,
Yeah.
at fourth wide receiver, at third quarterback and kicker without the owner's permission.
But
But you ain't making that move without
He's
Jimmy.
not even in that tier. He's in his own tier. And he's in that tier of influence in the organization.
Yes.
Look at the Luka Doncic trade. Nico Harrison sent Luka to the Lakers, and look who no longer has a job.
Yeah.
Nico.
I just think, to your point, to go through 1-31 and the misery that created, and to have two number one overall picks, if neither one of them is still with the franchise less than 10 years later, that is a disaster.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. 1-31 concluded 9 years ago. And
Yeah.
We're right back there.
Yeah, and so I get it. But again, I just think you have to look at it pragmatically that this franchise is not close. They can say whatever they want. Zach, do you think this franchise is close to winning consistently at a high level?
They are close to being in the top 3 of the draft.
Yeah, they're much closer to that than they are being a Super Bowl contender.
And that's with a defense that's a legit top 5 or 7 defense.
And the meter keeps running on Myles. And players can be at that position. Go look at history. They play at a high level, late into their 30s. Bruce Smith, Reggie White. These guys were productive players in their late 30s. I get all that.
Another part of this, and people say, well, look, they just saw what Max Crosby got before it fell apart.
Right.
And Myles
And that's
is a better
where it
player
started.
than Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Myles is 2 years older than Max Crosby. And one of the realities of trading Myles Garrett, outside of Andrew Berry's ego, outside of cap implications, is getting real value for him was going to be impossible because a team saying we're going to give 3 first ones and one and actually doing it is different. And then if a team's doing that, the first 2 are going to be like the 30th pick in the draft. And right now you're in a situation where the 24th pick, the 6th pick in the draft doesn't look all that sexy.
Yeah.
Now, if you can get multiple picks for next year, you might trade Myles Garrett. Maybe there is some deal right now where the Dallas Cowboys want Myles Garrett. And this is the bridge to it happening on June 2nd. But that seems highly unlikely.
Either one of y'all ever seen the movie New Jack City?
A million years
Long
ago.
time
when it
ago.
came.
So, when Nino Brown was in the courtroom, he said, hey, this thing is bigger than Nino Brown. That's what I mean when it comes to Andrew Berry. This thing is much bigger than Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry don't even have the type of cliche or clout to be able to try to make that type of move without Jimmy Haslam. And right now, I don't see Jimmy Haslam signing off on any type of trade for Myles Garrett.
Well, the problem is the last time those 2 collabed on a big move, look where it got everybody.
So
It was 4 years ago this week, as a matter of fact.
yeah, like it's just and I hear you, and I'm not trying to be totally closed-minded to it, but again, right now, in real time, this season, next season, whatever, I just don't see that. I don't see it being the case. I can be totally
Between now
wrong.
and September 30th, I think it's highly unlikely. But let's see where things are then. I like I said, I'd be stunned if something's cooking right now to be in 4 weeks or even in 2 months. But this, I think, you could look at it structurally, is a bridge to Myles turning back into what he was 2 years ago. It's run. We're talking about Shador having a runway. This is a runway to potentially trading Myles Garrett.
And that's
but I think potentially and eventually are the words that I would stress.
That's why I just get hung up on why did you do it? Why'd you do it?
Well, you're always doing cap exercises.
I get it. But he's not making any more money, and no one has yet to show me how this creates more cap space. I don't see how this creates more cap space.
It gives you the chance to do more restructures to create more cap space down the road.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes it easier to do because you right now you are almost flat out of contracts that you can do this to.
Yeah.
You need to get more of those, but you're invested in this guy till 2030.
Yeah.
It basically full guarantees, and there's nothing wrong with that because he's a weather-changing player. So this is about what it potentially might be. I almost fully agree with Earl that I'd be stunned if it means something right now. But I think as this organization continues to confront that could go this way or this way, and the down the middle is not really going anywhere, I think it opens the door to, if it goes this way, this move can be made.
I do like how you put that Andrew Berry can be doing a cap exercise, and I've heard a lot of people say that Andrew Berry was one of the first people who started this whole, converting $1 million base and kicking the can down the road. And Andrew Berry is a smart guy. Who's to say that, him and other GMs and other guys are sitting and they projecting cap 5-6 years from now, and every guy body's huddled up. We tried this. Let's try this now. Let's see how this works. And so it could just be an experiment. We probably won't know the why until, he speaks, or a few years from now when we see more contracts done like this for guys who got big money like Myles Garrett.
I think the general thing with the way they've done things is like it's been going on forever with these simple restructures and pushing money forward. But when you see like void years getting pushed to 2032, that's usually for teams that are on the brink, not teams that are on the brink of the top 3 of the draft.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what's strange here. They're spending, they're committed, they're doing their part. They're trying to manage every dollar of the cap because every year you roll over what you don't spend.
Right.
And that has kept them ahead of the curve, even with swallowing bad contracts and dealing with arguably the worst contract ever. But eventually you have to pay for these guys, and eventually you have to have the flexibility to do it. So this is like a playing both sides. If it works out, this is a long-term flexibility to keep extending Myles. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work out, this makes it easier for the team in little subtle ways if a move needs to be made. Like I said, to actually get value, to trade Myles Garrett, to swallow the pride, to get the owner on board, to have the fan base on board, to get semi-proper compensation, like there's just no landing point for that, right? Because like is 2 1s enough?
No.
No.
Right, and so then the team that does, okay, well, he's going to be 31, right? And we know he's prickly, and we know he's going to want influence in our building where he's never been before.
Yeah.
So like, actually landing that plane is the runway is not real long.
Zach, one last thing before we head to break, but you had asked us if you could have a minute to explain the Browns' spending plans. We made up a Professor Zach class. We're about to go to Cap 101. So, Zach, the floor is yours. Professor Zach, take it away.
What?
Well, look at that Christmas outfit that my wife picked out. Yeah, I kind of just touched on it. Like, they are pushing money forward, and their thought is that every single year the cap is going up, so it's free spending, it's free interest, it's this is our budget, and guess what? If we go over it, it's fine because the budget's $20 million more next year. It's strange because it hasn't worked, and people have angst about that, and that's what's lingering out there, Earl. That's where your angst is, right? And like I said, when you see them bringing in 30-year-old offensive linemen and making void years till 2032, it makes you stop and think, what year is it? Right? So that gives you the indication that they're not necessarily planning to stink this year or year after. We know a stadium's supposed to open in 2029. But they are aggressively spending over the cap. And what they tried to do with the Watson contract is no different than Philly is doing with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has piles and piles of dead money for down the road, and eventually they will move on and Philly will stink for a year and they will swallow it. It's just different because it hasn't worked here with Watson. It's different because the Browns got in a situation where he's only on the roster right now because they could not afford to cut him. But they are spending, they are committed to spending, and they are smartly, with the right people, doing the right things to push it forward and maintain short-term flexibility. Is it ideal to have $23 million in dead money on Joel Bitonio? No, but is it a bigger problem that then you had to go spend on guys that other teams were willing to get rid of?
Yeah.
That's the big problem.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I want to see the picture real quick because I know you already spotted this. I got to see this picture again. Zach is teaching. We in class. Let's be 100, Jason. What me and you what are we doing in class right now while Jason is? What year is it?
I'm blowing spit wads at the board. That's what I'm doing. 30 seconds because we got to run. But I totally understand everything you said. I've parroted the exact same thing multiple times on the show. I do find it interesting. I know people have very strong opinions about Joe Banner. And Joe Banner is Italian evaluator. But the one thing that he has said publicly many times that I find interesting is you only borrow from the future if you think you have a chance to win.
Right. The next year and a half has to be your window.
So what is your response to that?
I agree. Now, at the time that Joe Banner was doing it, the cap was not rising at this point.
Yeah.
But I agree. That's where people's frustration is.
Yeah.
Why
are you borrowing from your future?
Right.
Why are you second mortgaging a house that is not worth?
Right. Like, why do you still owe Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson $86 million after this year?
All right, that's enough.
On that note.